because you
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Woo! It's the end of May already, and I keep going. How 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 is it possible that we're at the end of May? Yeah, I know.
I know.
Anita and I founded All in Alignment, Creating Sacred Spaces. And in October of 2023, we held our first live Power of an Unstoppable Woman event. Well, we had so much fun at it, and there's a couple here that could vouch for that we decided to keep the momentum going and start hosting every 2 weeks our virtual stage for Power of an Unstoppable Woman. Well, as some of you might have heard a little earlier, we have known Reverend Sheila B for a few years. So we're very excited to host her. We are, and you can mark it on your calendar again, hosting the live Power of an Unstoppable Woman again in October on the 19th and 20th of 2024. And our applications for speakers is out. So if you know someone, we have a few spots available still. Connect us or ask us for the link, and we can certainly hand that off to you for them without further delay, because you didn't come here to watch me. You came here to see Rev Sheila B. So Anita, take it away.
I certainly will with pleasure. And again, thank you, Sheila, for being on our Power of an Unstoppable Woman virtual stage, where we like to shine the spotlight on amazing women like yourself. And Reverend Sheila B. Tillich is a recovery metaphysician. And since 1985, Sheila has been openly and deeply committed to a spiritual path as a recovery metaphysician. Sheila can help you awaken and align your true self so you can live the purposeful life you were made for. Love it. In February of 2020, Sheila was called on by the Galactic Star Mothers. Ooh, goosebumps just ran through my body. Hello, Galactic Star Mothers, they're with us, to transmit messages of unconditional love and direction to those who seek answers as a galactic grandmother. She can help you receive emotional healing and solutions, allowing you to live your divine purpose, calling on the nourishment of Mother Earth's energy and wisdom of your galactic lineage. Sheila has recently launched her Galactic Ascension Academy. Ooh, want to hear more about that? Offering its first course, Sobriety Through Spirituality. Yay, Sheila. This course is designed to transcend traditional approaches to healing and facilitate a transformation that goes beyond sobriety for substances. Now, this evening, our talk is all about love, and our loved ones never leave us. I'm so excited. Reverend Sheila Tillich, you now have the stage. Whoa! And you have the
Thank you.
stage for the next 56 minutes. How's that?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You guys, I am just so very grateful for both of you. And I've known you through the Cryon family, and I am just so blessed. And thank you so much for having me for this. It's
Mhm.
very, very honored to do this. And some of these people on here know a little bit about myself, but they might not know some of the stuff that I'm going to be sharing today. So I have a lot that I do, but I think it's really important for us to know that we never die. We never die. Our loved ones are with us. They communicate with us on a daily basis. And it's all about love, everybody. It's all about love. So I'm going to share a little bit about how I got here, all right, and what happened. And I'm not going to go too much into my Galactic Ascension Academy, because you can look that up on the website. So I want to share about our soul knowing our full purpose. Why are we here? All right. And it's all about love. And by sharing this actual experience that I had with my brother, you will see how spirit and source through synchronicity and serendipity lines everything up for us. And our soul knows our purpose before we do, basically. So let me see, where do I begin? I was born in a big Irish Catholic family, and there was 10 of us all together, 8 kids, my parents, and it was very dysfunctional. I will have to say, both my parents were active alcoholics. I grew up in a very unhealthy life, patterns, programs, behaviors for survival, and I think back at it now, and I'm just so grateful for my life today because it has given me the tools to be who I really am. And I've been called the angel lady. I have been able to hear angels since I was born. I'm also hard of hearing. I can't hear very well. I wore hearing aids, not until the 90s when I went into nursing school, but I've been hard of hearing since I've been born, and it's in my family. And I could hear the angels, but I couldn't hear other people. And we were brought up Catholic, and we went to Catholic schools, and the nuns told me I couldn't talk to angels, that it was blasphemy, and that I could have a guardian angel, and that was it. So I hid my abilities for many, many, many years, but I always knew that they were there, and my soul knew who I was and where I was going. But I had to experience life. And a lot of those experiences were hard. A lot of them were so good. And it actually had my soul gain the wisdom that it always had, and to remember who I was. So to back it up a little bit, when I was about 6 years old, we actually lived in Tucson, Arizona. And now you gotta picture this. So there's 8 kids, right? I'm number 6 out of 8. And I was the only child in the car with my mother, a big old Woody station wagon. I was the only child. Now that's right there is something right there. But anyway, I didn't remember this story till about 5 or 6 years ago, and I tell about it in my classes a lot. But I was in the car with my mother, and I said, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, where did we come from? Why are we here?" And my mother pulled the car over, turned the car off. She turned around and she looked at me and she said, honey, I don't know. I don't know. It was actually an honest, let me put this on speaker. It is on speaker. It was the honest answer that she gave me, but my soul knew, but I didn't realize it until many, many, many years later. So I am a grandmother. I have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. And yes, I am a galactic grandmother. And it took many years of me discovering about myself, of healing myself, and to find out who I was and why I was here. So my family life was very dysfunctional. My parents, they were good old Catholic people, and but they had a lot of problems and a lot of issues in their tissues, as we call them now. And I grew up being the caretaker. I didn't have much of a childhood, and I had to deal with the inner child many, many, many years later. But because of that, my father died when I was 15. And I have had many, many tragedies and trauma in my life. And my father was only 48 years old when he died. So that should tell you something, really substantial right there. He actually died from alcoholism and lung cancer when he was 48 years old. And I, at that time, had always wanted to go to school to be a nurse midwife, but I never did. And I gave up my dream of becoming a nurse midwife. And I got married very young. I married my high school sweetheart. And, it's when you look back at, how things were back then, it's totally different than it is now. We get, most of us see women grew up 9 of 11. Oh, who was that? Who was that? Who just said that? Anita? Okay, good. So you can relate to that, right? Yeah, my story is all about relating and about being intimacy, all right, and being vulnerable and take the risk of who you really are and to share from the heart. And I share my life story openly is because we need to make that human connection. We need to know that we are all connected from our heart our soul, and that we were all one, you know. And I'm just so blessed to be able to be alive at this time, to be able to share who I am and where I came from, is because many people, you know, they live in a lot of shame, and I know it because I lived it. I lived it. Matter of fact, I never uh, dealt with my brother's death for over 20 years. So my father died when I was 15. My younger brother died when he was 17. He committed suicide, and I was 18. And I never grieved him for 20 years later. And I share that is because it's about shame. And it's about not knowing how to feel feelings, not knowing how to grieve. And we live in the dynamics of the programming and what we were taught, right? It's all about survival. And I know today that my survival got me to where I'm at today. And I'm very, very grateful for that. So I'm going to get to the story about my brother who died in 2019. But before that, I have many, many siblings that have passed before that. And through all those lessons, I started to awaken as a soul. And as I said, the angels were always close to me. You know, they were there for me. I could always talk to them, but I didn't let too many people know. And after I got married, I started having children right away. I had my two young sons, my two sons when I was in my early 20s, and I never had my daughter till I was in my 30, till I was 32. But we had a lot of marital problems. We didn't have a good marriage, no foundation, you know, and I always knew that. But I, you know, good little Catholic girl that I was, I married for my vows and I was going to stay in the relationship, that type of stuff. But I was very unhappy. Very unhappy. And I kept asking my angels, help me, help me, help me, you know, and I look back at it now and I know I had to go through that to get to where I'm at now. I understand that now and I see that very, very clearly. Wanting to be a nurse midwife, I always had dreams about birthing babies. I did. And as my children grew, we lived in the country, and they raised livestock, and I actually birthed a lot of livestock. I birthed sheep and goats, and so I did birth, but I always wanted to birth humans. So I was actually married for 32 years. I've been actually divorced almost 19. So that's a lot of years, a lot of years. Matter of fact, last month or the 18th, we would have been married 50 years. And it's like, it's a long time, but I'm just so grateful that I have been able to live my life that I have now. So the marriage was very dysfunctional. We were both workaholics. And we were also, we drank. That was our social life, right? We didn't really have a very close, intimate relationship except for working and caretaking and take care of the children. And, you know, they were in sports and stuff like that. And I also was a caregiver for my mother-in-law who had Parkinson's for 13 years. And I was very unhappy and I knew it. And I kept hearing the angels tell me that I needed to do something. But I was very insecure, low self-worth. I didn't know how. And so I stayed. And I beat myself up for many years, came down with depression, came down with some physical problems and stuff like that. However, I look at it now and I needed to go through that to get to where I am at now. And I keep saying that, but there's a long history there. And what I do today as a healer is share my strength, my courage, and my hope, where I come from, and also tools to how to get unstuck in your life. So being a recovery metaphysician, probably everybody says, what is that? What is that? Well, I have been in recovery for 40 years. And I actually went to my very first Al-Anon meeting in 1985. And I got into recovery for codependency. And then it was 8 years later before I got into recovery for alcoholism. Now, mind you, I lived in denial for many years. I always compared myself with my parents. They drank every day, it was very abusive, not much of a home life. And I was nothing like that. But what I was I was an emotional drinker. And I would go for months without working, not drinking. And then all of a sudden something emotionally would hit, a trigger would come, and I'd start drinking. So I always knew I was an emotional drinker. But I also, my soul knew that I had to do something, because I started looking into my children's eyes and I seen myself as a child. When I would hide my alcohol, when I would drink, I would hide my whiskey, or not my whiskey, my wine behind my cookbooks in the kitchen. All right. And I would play games for years and years and years. I would not drink after a certain time because I would wake up and my blood sugar levels were really bad. So I'd only drink till a certain time. But what was happening was that the cravings started coming. My body started depending upon this. And I was a good Christian girl, and I worked at a church secretary, and I finally knew I needed to do something about it. So I worked for a pastor, and God or source, whatever you want to call it, lines people up in your life, shows you things you need to change about yourself, and they also line up people in your life, right? So there was a friend of mine in church that was an ACOA, adult child and alcoholic. And we would actually teach the 12 steps of Christianity, right? So I was already in Al-Anon. I was already working the steps there, but I wasn't quite ready to come out of denial until I met my friend Stacy. So Stacy actually carried the message to me that I could do different. And I started sharing stories with her. Is it right going to different liquor stores, pretending you're going to have a party? I was doing all these crazy things. But in reality, is that I needed help. And I knew I did. And so I got help. And through that, I got into the rooms of AA. Even though I was already in Al-Anon, I really didn't do the steps and really apply it to myself, because I was still playing the victim role for many, many years. Excuse me. And so when I got into AA, the old timers there told me that I didn't do these steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they were very right. I needed to find out what my anger was, what my resentment was, what my shame, why I did the things that I did. And I learned that alcoholism, there's many stages of alcoholism, and it's an emotional feelings disease, as they say, and I don't believe in labels anymore. I don't believe in any of that stuff as far as labels. But what I do know is how it feels to want to numb my feelings that I didn't want to feel. I do know how to do that. So when I got sober, I'm very grateful that I didn't go through the revolving doors, and a lot of people do. But because of that, my spirituality really got strong, because I was a very strong Christian, and I was going right by the books, and Jesus was my savior and the whole bit. And they told me in AA, this isn't about Christianity. This is about spirituality, about really connecting to your soul and who you are. So I did. And through that, I was able to slowly get help. I got sober in 93. I went to nursing school. I wanted to be a nurse midwife. I had 3 years of nursing when I had an accident and I tore the hamstring of my leg. I had an accident on one of the steps at school. So I had to stop school then. And the good thing about school is that I started doing hospice work. And that's when spirit really started talking to me, and I couldn't deny it anymore. And then I really realized I could see where God was placing me, and for me to know things, my spirituality, I knew things. I didn't know how I knew things, but I knew things. My abilities started coming up, all my clairs and stuff. So it was a long process, but it was needed for me to get to where I needed to be, because I wasn't secure enough in myself yet to leave during those early years. And so after I had my accident in nursing school, I started doing private duty hospice. And then I went to nursing school in 2000, and I started working at one of the major hospitals doing phlebotomy. And that was a time where I was starting to get stronger in myself, and I was able to slowly devise a plan to get out of the marriage. And I actually left in 2005. And I actually divorced, and I was divorced in 2006. And during that time, from 6 to like 2009, I started really working on myself. I had time to do meditations. I had time to connect with my source. I actually went to mediumship school, became a medium. And then I started, following different followers and stuff like that. And in 2012, one of my brothers had died, and he came to me when he died. And that's when I knew I was a real medium. And I learned evidential mediumship. And when he came to me, and a lot of people say, what is evidential mediumship? Well, it's about when spirit gives you evidence and only you know it. And that's what he did. When he came to me exactly at 1:28 in the afternoon, and he says, Sheila, it's beautiful here. And I stopped, and I was actually I used to work at the hospital. I was in the nursing department. See, this is how spirit works. Even though I started in phlebotomy back in 2001, in 2011-12, I was in the nursing department. I was actually recruited to leave phlebotomy and go in the nursing department. And I was a head phlebotomist in the hospital. And so I was in the nursing office, and my brother came to me at that time. And when he says, Sheila, it's beautiful. And only my siblings called me Sheila. And I said in my head, validate yourself. And he showed me him and I walking down the wedding aisle. And he says, I gave you away, didn't I? And then I knew I was a real medium. So that was kind of like, that was evidence. And, I learned all that stuff and stuff like that. But I wasn't ready to say, leave the hospital and say, I'm a medium, can I give you a reading? And it was in 2013 when I heard about this modality called integrated energy therapy. Now I knew about Reiki because one of my older sisters who passed in 2008 did Reiki. And she used to do sweat lodges and stuff like that. So when I didn't have any desire to do Reiki at the time. And it was in 2013 when I heard about this integrated energy therapy, and it dealt with angels. So I was like, angels. And when I found out about it, integrated energy therapy is about issues in your tissues. It's about your anger and your fear and your shame and distrust. And it deals with your 12 spiritual strands of your DNA. Now, I had already been doing the work for many years in AA about my anger and my resentment and stuff like that. So it was right up my alley as far as I kind of understood it. And I started IET in 2013, and then in 2014, I started teaching IET, and I started doing sessions, and I've done over thousands of people sessions I've had over the years, and also I've taught that many classes over the years since 2014. In 2018, I became a trainer to teach all 4 levels of IET. So I'm very proud of that. But IET is about my own healing, about understanding the energy field and why we do the things that we do. And when I was in nursing school, I loved psychology, right? So being a healer was right up my alley, as far as I was already doing the healing with myself, looking at my whole childhood and stuff like that. And, as I shared, a lot of my family members have died, and there was 10 of us in the family, and I am the only one that's left. So there's been a lot of death, a lot of tragedy over the years, which has grown me. And every time somebody had passed, I would communicate with them. And I was closer to them in spirit than I was in my life. And so it kind of expanded my role as a healer, but also who I was and what I was meant to do. Right. So in 2013, I also took shamanic work and I became a shaman. And I learned about the earth and the energy and the directions and the elements and all that other stuff. And I really felt drawn to it. And then I actually got involved with the Cryon team in 2016. 2017, I left the church. I left actually the hospital, and I went back to school, and I got a degree in metaphysics, and I became a metaphysical minister. Now, all that time from 2017, also in 2017, I became an authorized host for the Lemurian Sisterhood. That's where the Cryon team came into play. And so I'm very, very grateful for that, because it helped me along my journey as far as who I was as a soul, and remembering, my Akashic lifetimes, my connection to Lemuria, and the human design, all that stuff. And I knew things were changing in my body, but I also knew things were changing in the world. And so when I became a metaphysical minister, they told me that, it's time to really focus on helping others, and this is what you're here to do. In 2019 is when I met you, Cheryl. I met you, all right, and I also met Anita. I was up in Ottawa, Canada, and I met Dr. Ryan, and I wasn't going to go to that I wasn't going to work at that event, because I had been to so many. We just came back from Mount Shasta. We was in Mount Shasta in June after Buffalo, in June for 2 weeks, and I was exhausted. But in August we went, and I, in spirit, told me I was going, even though I said, nah, I'm too tired. But they said, yeah, are you going? And I know why, was to meet Dr. Ryan. All right. So that was another part of my education as a healer. And it was in 2020 when I went back to Ottawa to open up one of his presentations. This is before COVID, right before COVID. And COVID was, it was very eye-opening for me. And I loved, believe it or not, I love COVID. I love being with myself. I love being able to have the time and being in the energy, with everything that was changing and feeling the shift. And so it's, it was very good for me for COVID. So a lot of people it wasn't, but I need to go back to 2019, because 2019, after I went to Ottawa, and then in November, I actually took my classes with Dr. Ryan up in Ottawa to be a unity field healing practitioner. Right. And I got back, and that following week I was doing one of my classes, and then I went and I had knee surgery. I had my right knee replaced. And it was 4 weeks to the date that my brother had a heart attack. Now, my brother Bob, and he was my closest sibling. And at that time, in 2019, there was still 3 of us left. There's my sister Jackie, who just passed last March. And so Bob had a heart attack, and he was almost brain dead. And the first time I drove to the hospital after having knee surgery was to go to the hospital for him. And I need to tell the story that we were estranged. My brother and I was estranged for 8 months before he died. Now, we were very, very close, right? And we were in recovery. Now that he's passed, I can say that, because he was in recovery too. And he was also a staunch Marine. He was in the Marines for many years. And in 16 years in the Marines, he was kicked out because he had an accident and broke his ankles and couldn't pass the physical and stuff like that. Then he went back to school and got a degree in history. And while I was working at Rochester General Hospital, he also was working there as the archivist there, the historian, for the hospital. And so over the years, we were known, brother and sister, in the programs, but also at the hospital and stuff like that. So in 2019, he had a lot of anger, lots of anger. And he was angry with me in a restaurant. and he was yelling and screaming at me. Now, we had a timeout, all right? And we've had like 3 timeouts in our life, and that was one of them, where I had to set boundaries and we weren't in each other's life. So 8 months before he died, we were estranged from each other. And the reason why we were estranged is that he was angry because he didn't want some of his friends who he lost touch with in the program to come to his funeral. We were talking about my will when it turned around that he didn't want certain people to go to his funeral, right? And so he was yelling and screaming at me in the restaurant. And I said, you can't yell at me like this. Started setting my boundaries. And he says, oh, yes, I can. But I'm just telling that to kind of give you an idea of the anger that was coming out and why the estrangement had to happen. And so that was back in like February of 2019. And then in December, when he had the heart attack, he was almost brain dead by then when they finally got him. And for 5 days, I was his advocate. I was able to communicate with him. And also it was at the hospital that we both worked at. All right. So I was with my coworkers. So many things happened during those 5 days, and he orchestrated a lot of it. But the day he was diagnosed, the day that he had the heart attack, I was in a room with 3 other people, or 4 other people, when the doctor gave us the news. And I knew that he was almost brain dead. And right after, when the doctor left, I asked him, what do I need to tell my nephew who lived in New Orleans? And what did I tell my sister? And he says to get him here quickly. So as soon as he left, I called my nephew and I called my sister. And then immediately, my whole family members came to me. My spirit guides, all my angels, all my loved ones, all my guides and my helpers came. And I was like in shock, and I said, why again? Because I had helped a couple of my other siblings passed over. And I said, why again? And they said, because this is what you're here to do. This is what you're here to call for. Hold on a second. Something's happening right now. Hold on a second. Okay. My security thing just came in front of my screen, told me, did you see that? Did you guys see that? No, it was this big security right in front of my screen. So I had to fix that. Sorry about that. So I said, why? Why now? And they said, this is what you're here to do. And then right away, my brother, Bob, came right before my face. Not angry like he was in the restaurant, with a big smile on his face. And he says 4 things. I'm not coming back. You know what to do. I'll be calling the shots. And I'm standing right beside you. And that's exactly what he did. For those 5 days, he brought things, he orchestrated everything. My coworkers, he was very angry because I was his healthcare proxy. Ever since he was in the service back in the 70s when he joined the Marines, I was his healthcare proxy, and he was very angry because he was on life support. Right, that he said not to be on anything, he wanted to pull the plug, and they kept him alive. And the reason was that he was an organ donator too. I know why on the medical field, but he was very angry. But the thing was that I was able to communicate with him, and my coworkers respected me. So I was able to share with him many, many things, what was going on, what he was feeling. And finally, when he actually passed, I was the only one with him. And he had told me to, put my hands on him and take his temperature. And that's when he passed. But, I share the story is that there's so many things that happened before all the deaths of my family, how they came and communicated with me, how I knew that was them. And when he had passed, knowing exactly what to do and how to do it. And I share my story to let others know that our loved ones never leave us. They're always with us. They're just in a different vibration. Their soul lives always. And over the years, he had come to me and talked to me, oh, many, many different things, especially being there for his son and stuff like that. But what happened last fall was really amazing. And it's a good example to share how spirit is always with you. So why he was angry with me, he didn't want some of his friends to come to his funeral, but they did come to the funeral, and his son said, absolutely, I want him at the funeral. So last fall, I was with another friend, and we were actually did a healing at one of the hospitals. So another friend that had an accident, she was going to be a paraplegic, but she's not, by the way, she's not now. But anyway, we went and did a healing on her, and then we went out to supper. Now, I live on the east side of Rochester, and the hospital is way over on the west side where I used to live for 40 some odd years. And my friend and I decided to go to supper. And I asked her where she wanted to go, and I gave her some choices, and so she picked the Italian Brook House. So we went to the Brook House. I hadn't been there in 11 years. And as soon as we sat down, right across from us was his best friend, the one that he didn't want at the funeral. And it was him and his wife's 50th wedding anniversary. No coincidence. I hadn't seen him until 2019, right? And I was with one of my friends who I had talked to Tom and his wife, and then I went back and sat down, and I went to take a sip of coffee, and all of a sudden my brother comes behind me, and all of a sudden I see him come around me and go over to Tom and give Tom a great big hug. All right, Tom is his friend that he didn't want at the funeral. And I'm choking on my coffee. My girlfriend's like, you okay? Are you okay? I said, I'm fine. I says, my brother Bob just went over to Tommy. And so I'm crying, and we started crying when we first got in there. We recognized each other, but this was a little bit later. So before they left, I said, I need to talk to you. So I went and share with them. And Tommy says, Sheila, he says, I can't get over. He says, I never was able to make amends to Bob. And he was so angry with me. And I said, Tommy, he had me come here to give you the biggest gift, to give you the gift of your 50th wedding anniversary. That it's all about love. So at the funeral, what I didn't say was at the funeral, after 5 days after he died, and the funeral, I was the last one to talk. And I asked my brother in the morning, what did he want me to say? He says, you tell the truth. You tell him what I told you when I was first diagnosed. I said, you got to be kidding. A lot of these people don't know that I talk to angels and that I'm a medium and stuff like that. He says, I want you to tell them what I said to you. So it was, all right, I'm not coming back. You know what to do. I'll be calling the shots. I'm standing right beside you. So I gave that message at the eulogy, and everybody was just, oh my gosh, whatever. So it wasn't for 4 years that I seen Tommy. All right. And so at the restaurant, he says, I just want to make amends. He says, I can't believe, I said, Tommy, this is Bob's way of healing for you. It's all about love. It's all about love, and he's always here with you, and he forgives you, and he wants you to know that. And he just hugged me, whatever. So that's just one of the examples that I have of spirit coming through, showing themselves, and that we are never, ever alone, ever. We are never alone. So about our own spiritual growth, how does that happen? A lot of it is serendipity and synchronicity, the things that happen in our life to show us we're on the right path, the people that we meet, the things that we need to change about ourselves, right? The healing that can be done, and most of us on this tonight are in the higher frequency, we're living a spiritual life and whatever, so most of us know it, all right? And what I love about sharing is that when you talk real emotional stuff from the heart, it's real. All right. And that's what I loved about integrated energy therapy, because it was about heart-centered focus. And many of us know, we're heart math coaches and stuff like that. We learned about heart math and how that works. I had been doing that with IET since 2013, and I also got trained to do all that. But many of us are still in the lower frequency in our lives. In other words, the wounds that we have in our lives. All right, the things that trigger us, we don't know why we're being triggered. And my role as a galactic grandmother is to help people release and heal and to stand in their power and to know that no matter what we go through, that we are never alone. We are here to live a life of joy and purpose. And it is all about love. It's all about love. So what I would like to do is I would like to do about a 10-minute empowerment session with integrated energy therapy. All right. So integrated energy therapy is about the issues in your tissues, and there's 9 different angels that work in all different areas of the body. But what I'm going to do, and the Star Mother says, oh yes, you are. I'm going to bring the Star Mothers in and we're going to do healing. Is that okay? Would you like that? Okay, so why don't we do that? All right, so they work through me, and we're going to, is everybody ready? Everybody okay? And then afterwards we can open up for questions if we still have time. All right? All right, who over here? All right, very good. Okay, so, what I'd like you to do is to close your eyes so that we can get focused right into the present moment and not be distracted from anything. And now, dear ones, what I would like you to do is take a nice deep breath, slowly and deeply, and blow it out. To start the relaxation response in your body. And take one more breath, dear ones. Take one more breath deeply and slowly as we connect to our higher self, our higher soul, and our divineness as beings. So, dear ones, I'd like you to take the focus into your heart center right now and feel the beautiful warmth in your heart as you breathe in and breathe out. Very good, very good. And as you breathe in and breathe out, feel a beautiful field of light and warmth coming out from your heart, expanding in the front of you and in the back of you. And of course, this beautiful light is going to go above you, past your soul star, and it's going to circle around you, a beautiful energy field of love and light below you to connect you with Mother Gaia. Very good. Breathe in and breathe out. Now, dear ones, we're going to bring the focus to the top of our head. And in this area of your crown chakra, we're going to let the IET angels come through. And I want you to think of anything that you feel guilty about. Yes, guilty about. It's okay. It can't hurt you in any way. As the beautiful IET angels go to the top of your head and start to deal with guilt, and they put beautiful innocence back in. Breathe it in and out. But now, dear ones, we're going to go to your third eye. And I want you to think of anything that you distrust in your life. things that have happened to you in the past. And breathe in the beautiful healing powers of the divine angels coming into this center in your third eye as they bring peace into this area. Now, I want you to think of anything that you've been shameful about. And it's hard for you to talk about it. So this will be in your throat area and also within your lungs. As the beautiful IET angels and the galactic star mothers and all of your beautiful galactic family comes forward to help heal all these different areas in your throat and now to your shoulders. All the weight of the world that you've carried, they are releasing it right now so that you can have freedom from all the weight and the things that you've experienced in your life, where you beat yourself up, where you felt that you weren't worthy enough, strong enough, healthy enough. For you see, dear ones, we have given you help to release those feelings and blockages on your shoulders and imprinted strength and freedom. And now down in your heart area, think of all the pain of heartache and betrayal. And feel the love of us coming into your heart center right now. Filling it with love and expanding that beautiful light within your heart chakra as the field around you vibrates more and more. Now, dear ones, we're going to talk about resentment and anger in your body and how many things have happened in your life and it gets triggered. Things you thought you healed, and all of a sudden you will feel angry or resentful for something, not knowing why. No, dear ones, the beautiful IT angels are coming and expanding and releasing and helping you forgive. First of all, yourself and others. Let go of that anger. Now we're going to go down by your solar plexus area and we're going to deal with all the stressors in your life. We're going to start releasing them. The things that you felt powerless over. Things that you couldn't change.
Oh,
Or what you did.
just grab a face cloth or something. Huh?
And now we're going to go from your solar plexus down towards your root chakra. And we're going to deal with all the fears that you've had in your life. We're going to feel the beautiful IET angels come and gather their beautiful wings around you as they help you walk through your field of fear. And they're going to start to empower you, dear children of the light. For you see, this is the time of humanity that you are starting to awaken to your divineness and the power that you've had as a soul, as it has wakened now during this time. As we move forward in this beautiful timeline of ascension as the consciousness field wakens up more and more. Dear children, this is the time that all of your helpers are here to help you, and to know that you are not alone. And this beautiful consciousness grid in Mother Earth, below, around, and above you, are all working together to help you stand in your magnificence. And we are here to help release things that keep you stuck, things that trigger you. And as you set your intention to grow as a spiritual being, you expand your abilities. And we are here to help you. All the experiences you had in your life is to grow wisdom. And this time of awakening has allowed you to heal and to pull upon all the strengths from those other lifetimes of pain, so that as you ascend in this lifetime, the next lifetime you will come back with a knowing in the spiritual divineness of who you really are. So take a nice deep breath, dear ones. Breathe it in and breathe it out. But now slowly bring your attention down all of your chakras while we ground you into Mother Gaia. For her strength is very powerful, and her roots are deep with love and wisdom. So as you bring your energy down to the roots of Mother Gaia, we want you to visualize a beautiful triangle light. One part of the triangle is 1 foot, and the other part of the triangle is the other foot. And the top of the triangle is your connection to your beautiful galactic family and who you are as a soul and why you are here at this time. Very good. Now slowly bring your attention back to your heart center, and you can put your hands on your heart. Very good. We want to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight to sit in this present moment with us, to feel the healing that you have and the power that you have inside you to do the healing, and the power that you have as you continue on your spiritual journey. Take a nice deep breath and breathe it out. And now slowly go ahead and bring your hands down and start to bring yourself back into this present moment. You can open your eyes. You can look around. You can start to move your shoulders. Ooh. Come on back, everyone. That was just a little sample of them getting into your energy fields and giving you some power. All right. Is there any questions, anybody? I think we still have 5 minutes. Is there any questions that anybody would like to ask? No?
Thank you for that, Sheila. Well, if anybody wants to open up their microphone, you're more than welcome to ask questions.
I'm just
Yes.
gonna, do you
And-
want to do a quick wrap, Anita? I'll stop recording and then that way the questions
Okay.
aren't on the recording.
Well, let's do that.
That
So
sounds-
we will
thank you.
say thank you to Reverend Sheila for coming all the way from Rochester, New York, to be on our Unstoppable Woman virtual stage. And we absolutely love and adore you. We bless and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And just for everybody